Okay, you guys, let's do this. It's going to be so professional. Like, so professional. Here we go. Well, welcome to the Live Support Podcast with your hosts, Michele VanDusen and June Colson, a couple of clean comedians who support each other and others through comedy's wacky and winding roads. I hope you're ready. Get set. Let's go. Since podcasts have a catchy tune, we wrote this song for Michele and June. Clean comedians are best friends too. Oh, it's so good. And you never know what they'll say or do. Here we go, sing with me on Live Support, with Michele, who's really short. We'll have a ball, with June, who's really tall. They have fun, interviewing comedians on Live Support, with Michele, who's really short. Now it's time to start Live Support.
The Live Support Podcast is brought to you by the Hot Breath Comedy Network.
Wow, give yourself a round of applause.
There it is. Epic theme song. Welcome to the Live Support Podcast. I'm your host, June Colson, here with my best friend, Michele, with one L, VanDusen.
You know it.
Oh my goodness, Michele VanDusen. I am so tore up excited today. Like, I am so excited about our guest today. I can't even stand it. But do you need to breathe for a minute? Do we need to have a Michele? Time zones are created by the devil. I really believe that the devil made like time zones and underwire bras and bumblebees. Like, that's all. Those are the three things I for sure know were placed on this planet, not by God. I don't know. Okay, y'all, that's not biblical. Okay. And you'd know that if you read your Bible. I'm just saying.
Read your Bible.
Oh my goodness.
Are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure that underwire bras might be mentioned in the book of Proverbs 31. I think it's in there. I think it is.
So you think?
Yeah.
No, I was writing some material about that the other day, and I said every time a woman gets stabbed with a underwire in her bra, I feel like men should have to wear barbed wire underpants. That's what I think. That's my thought. I feel like
It's the briars.
Oh my goodness. The joys of being a woman. The joys of being a woman.
Joy.
How you doing, woman? Are you excited for our episode today?
Oh my gosh, I am. I stayed up really, really late last night, not because I was studying hard or anything. It was because I was so caught up in all of these other interviews that our guest has done. I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I started to get a little intimidated about who we're speaking with today. And I'm like, no, just get that out of your brain. Get that out of your brain. But then this morning, because I got like everything out of my brain, I realized, time-wise, I'm completely on the wrong time zone right now.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm like, oh, I got another hour. I got another hour to be ready. No, I had 3 minutes to get ready for today's show.
My goodness. I can't even imagine what I would look like right now, knowing what I look like when I woke up if I only had 3 minutes to get ready. Oh my geez.
Oh.
And you just look adorable. And we've already had a conversation backstage with our guest about your amazing smile. And she is correct. Our good friend Rhonda Corey, we talk a lot about, one, you're so photogenic. Your eyes are ice blue and amazing. This is for our people who are podcast listeners. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see it. And your smile is ridiculous. This is why when Rhonda filmed her dry bar, you made it on the cut of the video and I did not. Because you smile and you laugh and you always have such a good time and you are just that light. And I am like so excited to have another amazing female comedian who's going to be with us, who I can tell you, Michele, I met our guest in Virginia, in Triangle, Virginia, at the LLGCA. And I can tell you that before she spoke, before I knew anything about her, she is one of those people who walk into the room and there's this beautiful presence about her. And the thing that I noticed most was that she looks at people in a way that they know they're seen. And that's a huge gift. You know what I mean? And it was just this like, aside from the amazing talent in her story that we're going to get to hear momentarily, she just is that kind of presence. And it's no doubt that she was a trailblazer, that she continues to hold the respect of the comedy community. And I just want to get her on here real quick before she's like, what am I doing? These women are talking about support bras. I thought this is clean comedy. So Michele with one L. Get it together. This is serious.
It's clean comedy. Make sure you wash those bras. That's all we're saying.
Yes,
Wash
yes.
them before
If
you
your
wear.
bra's clean, it's clean comedy. Look, it's your job to introduce our guest. And by the way, she probably knows how to handle a Michele, because it's my understanding that she has a Michele just with 2 L's, not 1 L. So Michele VanDusen, this very second, tell us about who we have on the show.
Okay, all right, hang on. Let me get a drink of water, because this is a much longer introduction than I've ever done for anybody. So hang on.
It could go on and on, but yeah, go for it.
Yes. All right. So here we go. Our guest today has been in the entertainment business for over 50 years. She still continues to perform today. She was an associate writer for Saturday Night Live. She hosted the Roast of the Champ, Muhammad Ali. She's toured with Whitney Houston. She was the opening act for the Greatest Love World Tour. She has worked with countless entertainers like Jay Leno, David Letterman, Gladys Knight, Robin Williams, Jeffrey Osborne, Jerry Seinfeld, Shaka Khan, Rosie O'Donnell, Dick Gregory, and the list continues to go on. She's authored a few books. In 2013, she received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Living on Laughter Gospel Comedy Association. And in 2017, at the Indie Author Legacy Award, she received the Maya Angelou Lifetime Achievement Award. Plus, she has an honorary doctorate degree.
Let's do it.
Our guest is the first renowned African American female impressionist in the history of this great nation. She can do a ton of impersonations, like Whoopi Goldberg, Wendy Williams, Monique, Fantasia, former First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump, Joan Rivers, Tina Turner, Lily Tomlin. I could keep going, but we need to start this interview.
Yes,
so
we
let's
do.
Let's welcome to the Laugh Support Podcast, the queen of impressions, Dr. Sylvia Traymore Morrison. Woo, woo, woo!
I'm tore up from the floor up. There she is, Miss Sylvia. Welcome to the Laugh Support Podcast.
Well, thank you first of all for having me. But look, that intro, I'm sitting here going, oh, I can't wait to meet her. I can't wait to meet her. But more so, the song that introduces this podcast is just delightful. It's just delightful. I loved it. I said, I could have been on that song with them, but you guys did a perfect job. It was great.
I'll have to send your compliments to my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law. They're bluegrass musicians, and they constantly have people in their home all the time that come from all over the place that just sit around, and they call it picking and a grinning, and they have banjos and violins and bass guitars and all of that, and they just and so we hired them to do that amazing introduction. But Sylvia, we are just so excited and honored to have you on the Laugh Support Podcast. As I was telling Michele, I met you in Virginia, and when we were starting season 2, I had met you in season 1, and we were starting this season. I told Michele, I was like, if she will have us, we have to invite Sylvia Traymore Morrison, because it was you just left such a beautiful impression. Which I guess impressionists can do that. I guess that's your thing, right? But not of the impressions of other people, but an impression of you as a human being. And so, as she said, so you are this country's very first African American female impressionist.
Yes.
And I can't imagine that that journey happened without some laugh support along the way. That surely there was a few people that God kind of put along your path that encouraged you or looked out for you or were there for you. So we're just gonna hand that over to you and let you share a little bit of who's been laugh support for you along your journey.
That's when we first talked about it earlier, I thought about it, and I realized that when I first started doing comedy in the early days, I didn't know anybody else that did comedy. Everybody I knew was already established. I didn't know them, but I mean knew of, let me say that.
Right.
And just so you guys can kind of understand where I was at that time, there were no comedy clubs. There were no comedy clubs when I started. So my venues were birthday parties, anniversaries, school classrooms. out my front yard, cookouts, that kind of stuff. So there was no place that I could go and meet other comedians because, you know, I did my very first professional show in 1969 in Washington, D.C. at Constitution Hall. And it wasn't that I was like the featured comedian because, like I said, I didn't know any comedians who were actually doing comedy at the time. And it wasn't until I entered a pageant. I entered the Miss Black America pageant because I saw on the Flip Wilson show where they had these 4 beautiful Black girls come out on stage. And my whole dream was to one day be on national TV. That's all. I just wanted to be on national TV so that people could see that I could imitate people. Now, I want to back up just a minute. I got to tell you guys this because I'm telling you, June, when you said time zones, wide bras, and beads, I was back here cracking up. Cracking up. And one of the reasons is because when I was maybe 5 or 6 years old, I could hear bumblebees. I knew when they were around. And I not only could hear them, I could make the bzzz, you know, their sound.
Yes.
And the reason why I laugh so hard is because you were like, you don't believe God put them.
I'm allergic to bees and underwire bras, I think. So.
And you know what? The bees knew that I knew that I knew about them. And they all wanted to be my friend. And I didn't want them for friends at all. Not at all. And they would follow me around. I would tell my sister, who's like a year older than me, I would say, there are bees around and they're on the way. And she was, why do you keep saying you can hear bumblebees? Nobody can hear bumblebees. I said, I not only can hear them, I don't want to sound like them because I draw them. Yeah. So when the first time I went on an actual comedy room stage was when the Comedy Store was only 4 years old. The Comedy Store in LA, because I got to LA by way of I had in the pageant, they sent me to Europe to entertain the American troops from the Vietnam War. And this guy who was a big comic back in the States heard about me. He didn't see me or anything because we didn't have all this wonderful internet stuff. But he read about me in a couple of magazine newspaper articles. He says, I'm going to see this girl. She can do impressions. That's unheard of. It's unheard of. So he had his team to fly me out to LA. And that dude was Red Fox.
Wow.
Yeah. Red Fox was my first manager. Let's do that. And then
what? Okay, we're just gonna pause and say that one more time. Who was your first manager, Sylvia?
Red Fox.
Oh my gosh. Okay, keep going.
I signed my very first management contract with Red Fox. Now, while I'm in LA, when I went to the Comedy Store, I met a couple of guys who, you know, they were doing comedy just like me. And I saw I think I may have seen one other female at that time. Some white girl, she had black hair. I wish I could find her. I wish I knew who she was. I could remember who she was. But we're talking the early 70s. And but I did hook up with some comedians who were funny. And I had no clue. I don't think they had a clue either who they were going to be.
Right.
So I'm in line with Jay Leno.
Never heard of him.
David Letterman. How about David Letterman? How about David? Yeah.
Rings a bell. Gosh.
And my favorite from back then was Robin Williams. And Robin, if anybody encouraged me, it would be Robin Williams, because he would say to me all the time, you know what, Sylvia, you're going to be big. You're going to be big. You know, and not even realizing that he was going to become the Mork of Mork and Mindy.
Oh, yeah.
But I've never met a kind of person.
Nanu.
Yeah, Nanu.
Yes.
And he was so nice. And he always said, every time I see you, I'm fascinated. You know, and I'm like, now keep in mind, he wasn't Robin Williams then. He was Robin. He wasn't the big star and all this other stuff. So once he did become who he was, and I didn't get a chance to hang out with them that much because I had to come back home because my dad was dying. So I had to come back to Washington, D.C., which is where I am now. And I moved to New York so I could be close to my mother instead of all the way out in California. And there was a guy who was hosting a place called Catch a Rising Star in New York City. So I went up to him one night, and I had been to a couple clubs, but I didn't work them because they wouldn't allow me on the stage for various reasons, whatever. Okay. Right. So here I go to this guy at Catch a Rising Star, and he looks at me and he says, "You know what, Sylvia, sure. Go on and do your 3 to 5 minutes." And that guy was Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Jerry Seinfeld.
Very cool.
And I always give him his propers when I'm speaking of him, or I've actually just met his best friend, who is George Wallace, another comedian.
Yes.
That's a whole story in itself. What a blessing that was. Oh my God. And when George invited me to do his show with him at the Bethesda Blues and Jazz Club, I kind of opened for him. And the next day he called me. He says, "You know what? I called Jerry Seinfeld and I told him your story." And I said, "Did he remember?" He said, "Yes, he remembers you." And I was like, "Can you tell him I want to go on tour with him?"
Yes. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if I can incorporate that into my comedy support, that would be where I take that, because I did at that time. I didn't know any girls, any females who were in comedy. None.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying that there weren't comedians then, because there were certainly quite a few television comedians. I mean, Joan Rivers was just coming on board, kind of, sort of, and I loved her story so much because I said we were kind of like parallel in our early days. So she was an inspiration with respect to what women had to go through back then. Yeah. To hear her story was like, whoa, okay, wow. So we're kind of like in the same lane. So I like that question too. I really like that question. So thanks for asking. That's a good
man.
Okay.
Oh man, that's So to list people like George Wallace and Jerry Seinfeld, and what I love about what you said about Robin Williams, I always had trouble connecting with people, and I had a kind of rough background growing up and things like that. So I was very protective of myself. And I remember the first time that I had a friend, like truly had a friend, and Michele is obviously one of the best friends that I've ever known.
Wait,
and
what?
One thing that one more time, Michele is one of the best friends that I've ever had. But
good looking out, Michele.
I think that
it's because I live how many states away. Yeah, that's why I'm your best friend. Because I don't show up.
Yeah, the God's like, listen, Junebug, you can't have anybody real close to you because there's little doses of Junebug. That's what you can handle. Is all you can handle. But what I was thinking about Robin Williams saying is the first time I realized, like, why, like when I had a true friend, I thought, why did I let my guard down with this person or whatever? And it truly was because I think when someone sees you as greater than you believe yourself to be, and they look at you in a way that makes you feel like you really can do something. And you said Robin was telling you, Sylvia, you're going to be big. You're going to, you're going to be something. And at the time, you said he hadn't risen to his stardom yet.
Right.
And this was just somebody who saw something in you. And a lot of times I think we struggle with that is, having that confidence. And I can't imagine what that was like for you, because we talk about having someone there along the way. I can't even remotely pretend to process everything that you had to go through on your journey. But I know at comedy club wise, when I look around and I try to find a clean comedian, female, whatever, I didn't have, like, I have my friends in Oklahoma that I can bounce stuff off of. But like locally, I would struggle finding anybody like me. And when you were coming up, there had to be sometimes I would think that it was kind of a lonely journey. And you were having to kind of make it up as you went along, I would assume. So did you have times that you kind of felt like you were on Sylvia Island and you didn't have that laugh support?
And how did you overcome those areas too?
Yes.
Okay. That's good. I have to, I believe in my heart that God protected me. I believe that he protected me from so much, because if I was going through that today, in terms of trying to find a stage, I remember, especially in New York, I would be out on the streets at night, unafraid, totally unafraid, going from place to place, trying to see if they had a stage, because there were no 15 comedy clubs in in the area like there are today. You might find one. And so I used to have to go in and make the club owner, at least try to make them believe that I could take the crowd that they had in there at the bars and the tables and stuff. I had to make them believe I could do that. I tell you what, I remember one day going into the Playboy Club. This is in Baltimore. I remember going into the Playboy Club all alone, nobody with me, because there was none of my friends wanted to ride around with me. And by the way, I didn't even have a car. So I was doing buses and trains and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember going into the Playboy Club one day, not realizing what the Playboy Club really was.
Yes.
I just knew they had a stage and they had people that come in to perform. So I remember talking to the club, the manager, and I told him that I'd love to entertain his guests. And he said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, I do impressions and I'm funny, and I just like to do your stage." I said, "You don't have to pay me. If you like me and you want to pay me, fine. But if not, you haven't lost anything." And that's how I would move in and get on some stages. But with respect to having people I could meet up with or hang out with, that was a lonely journey. But I honestly believe that so much of the stuff that happened back then, it was really lonely, but I didn't understand that it was lonely because I loved doing what I loved. I loved it so much. I didn't care about being lonely. Yeah. I just wanted to, it was just always so exciting to me to see all these people. And then I have to go on stage and take the microphone and hope that they like me. And oh my God. And when they did, I remember my first standing ovation. I wasn't even hired. It wasn't even like they hired me for the club. I got the standing ovation begging, could I do your stage?
Yes.
And it was like, I can do this. This is what I want to do. This is me. And I don't remember having anybody to roll with me out on the streets in the clubs until about 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So this is my 53rd year.
Yeah.
In the business. And for all those years, I pretty much was a loner. But people would come out to my shows. And I know for a fact that God protected me from a lot of like any kind of depressions that I may have had to go through with respect to my career, because I was like, I'm getting all these standing ovations. The newspapers are writing about me. When do I get to do regular television or regular, when? And it's like, I've learned over the years that it's God's timing, Sylvia. Sit yourself down and wait until he says it's time, okay? And so that's where I was back then.
What about that? Oh my goodness. So when you were talking earlier, I've been reading. Okay, so I'm going to hold up, Michele. I have almost there. Almost. I got that to take with me to the beach. Got the hard copy. I've been reading some of each. And I remember, so the other one is Jelly Beans from Heaven.
Yes.
Listen, y'all. First of all, get both of the books. But Sylvia, I'm just starting the Jelly Beans from Heaven. And the visual that you paint, this very first image of this creature, and there's babies, and I'm not going to say too much, y'all, but I was just like, what am I reading? And that's why I ended up bouncing back and forth, because I was like, oh, I want to know, but I want to read, but I want to know, but I want to read. So I'm going to be taking them to the beach with me in a few days. And I'm just so excited. But there were a couple of things that you were saying that I remember from one of those books, and at the beginning it talked about the adversity and some things that you faced, but at no point was it a deal breaker.
No.
Right? I mean, you still
Right.
had the passion for it. It didn't matter if you bombed. It didn't matter if the door was closed. You were just
Right.
going for it. And I was kind of curious, you know, now, like, as you see people out there in the grind and those kind of things, maybe what you see that was there before and how you kind of see the club scene and stuff now, because you're definitely seeing it from a different perspective.
Yes.
And if you would have a piece of advice maybe for people who are in that grind now, of something maybe you wished you knew before or that you have always carried with you along the journey.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me address the Jelly Beans from Heaven story that you started reading.
Yes, yes.
I was at a church in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, about 900 people. And a little better than, but close to 1,000 people. And it was a really absolutely wonderful show. And I'm telling my Whitney Houston story. And all of a sudden, and I know you guys will be, Michele, with one L. I mean,
Michele, Michele, tell her why you only have one L in your name. Tell Miss Sylvia.
I only have one L in my name because when I became a Christian, it scared the L out of me.
Yeah.
Okay. I love brilliant stuff. I really do. I really love brilliant stuff. So here I am in Philadelphia at this big church and all these people. And, you know, I used to be nervous when the audience would be really quiet and they weren't laughing or they weren't doing anything. But the whole 1,000 people, close to 1,000 people, were all sitting there like this, watching. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, this voice says to me, Sylvia, because now I'm telling the Whitney Houston story. Tell your audience that when Whitney died, she went to heaven. And when you get to heaven, God assigns you a mentor. Lena Horne. Now, he's saying this to me as I'm telling my Whitney. It was a guy, so I don't know who. I don't know if it was a representative from God or what. But anyways, he said, and then tell them that Lena Horne was her mentor, and then do an impression of both of them. And I ignored it. And all of a sudden, the voice got out, do it now. To make a very long, wonderful story short, Jelly Beans from Heaven was almost handed to me. I didn't have to work on it. I didn't have to research. I didn't have to look stuff up. It's like God just used my imagination. And I was even a little like surprised at some of the stuff that came up. And I was actually enjoying writing this crazy stuff. You know, like you said, the babies. One guy asked me, there's a chapter I'm sure you haven't gotten to yet, or maybe you have. It's called The Eyes. I don't even know where that came from. I have no clue where that came from. But I had someone who reviewed the book said, Sylvia, I'd love to know where your head was in the book about the eyes. He said I was absolutely fascinated about that story. And I'm like, okay, all right. So let me move on to, but I had to tell you that because I didn't know you had the book. And it's like, it's my most popular book. I mean, people want to buy the autobiography, but when they see the reviews on Jelly Beans from Heaven, it's like, because it's not a long book, you know, it's a fairly, but the contents are like, wow. I mean, I've been compared with other writers and so forth, but let me get back to, ask me the last part of the question again, because I forgot.
It was just that, like, is there a piece that you've carried along with you that, you know, or a piece of advice or something that you've carried along your journey that would be helpful for people who are on the same kind of path?
Well, after having watched comics for 5 decades, I've seen so much. I'm in my 6th decade of watching comedies. I've watched comedy evolve. I've watched it change. I've watched it do all kinds of stuff to people, good and bad, you know, just good stuff and bad stuff. And for me, I know that my passion was deep. It was so deep. I could have cared less about anything until my children got here, of course, you know, then that kind of changed the game. But during those first 25, 30 years, I just wanted to do what I did. I just wanted to, I was like addicted to the microphone.
Yeah.
And I think the love that audiences around the world showed me in my early days, my passion grew deeper because some of the comments they would make when they'd come backstage to get an autograph or whatever, they were so like powerful that I knew that I'd probably never be able to stop doing this. I just, you know, my passion, it's like it grew with each show. And I would say, unless you are really, really serious about what you want to do, if you really love comedy, and clean comedy is a whole nother world. It's a whole nother world. And I'm real happy. I've influenced several female comedians and I'm not saying anything's, well, I'm not going to say anything's wrong with it.
Right.
It's subjective, you know, it's subjective.
Yeah.
And whatever kind of comedy you do, fine. But I'm kind of proud of myself for influencing a couple of several female comics into changing their language in their comedy. Because one thing I said to two of them, I was talking to them one day, I said, now, if the president of the United States invited you to come and do his dinner or whatever as a guest, are you going to take that material to the president's guests or any major conference? Or because I do conferences and I do big people who I have to be careful. Yes. Well, I don't even have to be careful because this is what I do. So I don't have to worry about accidentally saying anything. But I would say to you out there, if you are serious about this, because a lot of people, there's so many comedians now that I look back and I smile. I'm like, where were all these people when I started doing comedy? There was like nobody to talk to. I couldn't ask anybody, you know, how'd I do? Or what'd you think? Or none of that. I had to talk with me. My conversations were with me. So if you're not serious, take a bow and let the ones who are really, really serious about this, who really love comedy, who really want to make a difference, who really want to inspire people to do better or just enjoy, just to give them something to smile about for that day. If that's not where you are, you might want to just step over to the side and let those people who mean what they mean and love what they mean to just pour into other people.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. You know, Michele and I, like, I mean, we record, audio record, video record our set, you know, and I know a lot of times, like in my head, it went one way and then I'll listen and I'm like, oh, yeah, that was not good. Or other times I think, oh, you know, they didn't laugh 2 times. And then I listen and I'm like, oh, they actually enjoyed it. Yeah. But you know, when you started, that wasn't you know, just you saying like, I didn't even have anybody to go, how did that go? You know, and that's been a big deal for me. But I tell you one thing that's like a rule of thumb for me though, no matter how an event goes for me, I don't listen for 48 hours. Because I'm like, if I had a great time and everybody seemed to have a good time, you know, and it's really just to kind of analyze my material and to try and make it better, right? But I don't want to take away from myself if I had a good time and it was a good night and then I listened to it. Now I pick myself apart. And then the same thing if I knew it was a bad set, I don't listen to it for 48 hours just to have a little time to let the sting wear off and all of that. But so now, I mean, I imagine that there were also some of your like favorite performances. Maybe you did that there's no audio or video record of it. Can you think back to a time, maybe something that you did that you're like, man, I wish I had that on tape. I wish I could show you that right now.
Whoa, dude, there's you know, actually there's some recordings that took place, even though there are many stories that I had that I wish I could, that I'd always wished that I had. And believe it or not, coming forward in the 2022s, I'm being sent videos that have blown my mind. I have one from 1992. I didn't even know someone had recorded it. I didn't even know it. And they sent it to me, and I'm like, I wonder what else is out there. So
Yes.
sure enough, this guy, that saw me on social media, he sent me the pictures of me on stage when I was like 21, that I had absolutely no clue even existed. And I'm telling you, I just broke down because I said, okay, let me tell you guys this. I'm in Canada one night, but I'm on tour with Whitney Houston, right?
Mhm.
It's Whitney Houston. God,
Yes.
God. You know, I often wonder, I'm like, God, thank you. First of all,
Yes.
thank you for that. How did I earn your love like that to put me on tour 23 cities with this woman? So we're in Canada, and every night I've opened, she closed. There was nobody else on the show. She didn't want anybody else on the show. Sylvia opens, Whitney closed. So we would go out for all of her team, you know, hairstylists and makeup artists and road manager. We'd all go out front and watch her show because she'd always have thousands of people there. So this one particular night, she looks out in the audience at me and she says, and I'm thinking, what do you want? You know, what?
Oh, yeah.
What do you want me to come up there for? So she did it again. And I said, I don't know if she's going to announce it tonight is my last night with her. You know, you just never know on these big tours or these big names. You don't know what's going on. So I wouldn't go. Well, Miss Houston sent security out to get me.
Oh no. Security.
Now it's really a big deal.
It's big. So I go up on the stage and, you know, they tell me that Whitney wants you. And I go over to her. I almost cry every time I tell this story. It's just so amazing. So I walk over to her and you could see all like 13,000 people, just a whole sea of folks. It was like unbelievable. And she looks at me and she grabs my hand and she holds it up in the air. And she looks out at the audience and she says, hey, wasn't Sylvia great? Wasn't she great? And June and Michele, I believe you could hear the roar of the audience for miles. And she hugged me. And I left the stage and I went back to my dressing room. And I sat there and I cried my eyes out. Because Whitney Houston had just taken this stamp. Now, how many years have I wished that I had that on film? Well, guess what?
No, Sylvia, you haven't?
I don't have it yet, but Arista Records has it. And we're trying to get a copy of it from them.
Oh my gosh.
You know, so it's like, oh my goodness. And as a matter of fact, they have all 23 tapes. Because Whitney used to say, you know, I watched our show tonight. I watched it. And I'm like, well, how'd she watch it? Then it occurred to me, they were filming. They were filming all that time. And I didn't know it for all those years.
What a treasure.
Wow.
Yeah. So while there are so many shows that I wish that someone had filmed, there are a couple. I also have the entire the roast that I replaced Richard Pryor in for Muhammad Ali. I have the entire roast on film. It's like I look at myself and I go, oh my God, I was so cute. I was just
oh my gosh, you were, and classy, man. Every picture I see of you, you are in fashion, but you look so classy. Michele, I know you said you've been going through, you know what I'm talking about. You've been watching these interviews. Just classy, Sylvia.
Thank you. That is so
class
sweet.
act all the way.
And for June to say that, you know, because June just brings it. June brings
that's really top. I'm putting up your social media right now because if any of our listeners do have any footage, they need to make sure that they reach out to you.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. So guys, Sylvia's on Instagram, Sylvia T. Morrison, on Facebook, Sylvia Traymore Morrison. It's Tray, Tray. Sylvia Traymore Morrison. Great. Yeah, Michele, good idea. So we pop it up there. If you have video of Sylvia, then we definitely want to see that. And we definitely need to get that. Now, so you've heard of Michele, you've heard of Muhammad Ali, have you not? You know where he was born, don't you? Do you know where Muhammad
I don't know
was
where he was born,
Michele?
but he floats like a butterfly, stings like a bee.
He's a bad man. He is a bad man and pretty so pretty. Listen, Michele, where do you think
What?
Muhammad Ali?
I love that.
Kentucky, maybe. He was born in Louisville. There's
Louisville.
a million different. Come on now. There's a million different pronunciations of Louisville. All the other ones are wrong, except for the way I say it. I'm just saying it. So, you said, she basically took the position of Richard Pryor, Sylvia did, in the Muhammad Ali roast. You looked absolutely gorgeous in it. I mean, just a tiny, like I could fit you in my pocket. You and Michele both. If I had like big breeches on, I'd have Sylvia in one pocket. Michele would be like, we're traveling. We're going to all have one plane ticket because we can all fit into my pockets. But as far as laugh support goes, if I recall right, you said Dick Gregory. Is that right?
Yes.
He is the one who put those wheels in motion.
Yes, he did.
To get you in that position. For our listeners, if you don't know who Dick Gregory is, you should. And definitely I recommend I believe it's Showtime. I think Showtime has a documentary on Dick Gregory. Michele and Andy Freeman, who was the producer of the Huckabee Show. Early when I first started comedy, I heard him that somebody had asked him who his favorite comedian was, and he starts talking about Dick Gregory and just what respect he had for him. And I looked him up and just became obsessed with him as a human being, as a comedian. So tell us a little bit about that. So Dick Gregory kind of put that in motion. Was your last?
Yes. Well, when my dad died and I moved to New York, one day I read the newspaper that said that Muhammad Ali was coming to town because they were hosting a roast at the Apollo Theater, and everybody was invited. You know, you got a name, you were going to be there. The NFL players, NBA players, movie stars, singers, actresses, if they were going to be there. So I had to be there too, even though I wasn't invited, but I had to be there.
That didn't stop Sylvia Traymore Morrison.
No. I could tell you so many stories about how I got into places where I was not invited and ended up being the person that they were so glad found my way into their event. So anyway,
we're going to circle back to that. Just FYI, we're going to circle back to that. But okay, go ahead. Tell us Muhammad Ali.
So
go ahead.
Here I am. I got to figure out how to get into this roast. Okay. So I said, I got it. There's a show on television on NBC called Laugh-In. And there's you guys may be too young. You guys know that?
Yep.
Okay. So there was an actress on it. Her name is Ruth Bussey.
Yes.
And Ruth Bussey used to have this little thing on her head. She had this little net hair thing to keep her.
Yes.
This white guy would come up to her and get fresh with her. And she would take her purse and pop him on his head. I love that. I love those two. I love them so much. I can't think of the guy's name, but you would know him if I called his name. So was Ruth? Do you know who Ruth Bussey is?
Yeah. She had it's the little black hairnet, and she had like a square jaw. And she'd lean over and get in your face. Yes.
Oh, Sylvia had her down. I was going to be a Ruth Bussey at the roast, and I was going to crash the roast and pop Muhammad Ali upside his head with the bag. Those were my plans. However, God said, no, I got something real big for you, sis. I mean, young lady. So I get a call from one of the girls I went to Europe with. She says, you're not going to believe this. Have a seat. I said, okay. She said, you don't have to crash the roast, Sylvia. Dick Gregory's a good friend of mine. And Richard Pryor canceled. Richard Pryor canceled the day of the roast.
Oh, man.
And he has nobody that can fill in because everybody's busy. You know, back then everybody was busy. Well, she said, get yourself ready because Mr. Gregory said he wanted you to come in and host the roast.
Wow.
And I was like, wait a minute. what do you mean host a roast? She says, you're going to host a roast. The NBC was taping it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like so floored because this was my dream. This was it. You know, this is national television with Muhammad Ali and Dick Cavett and Fred Williamson and Jim Brown. I mean, all these people who were on the roast. And so I head over to the Apollo Theater, and there's no script for the show. None. They'd already given Richard Pryor what he was supposed to say. Here I am trying to figure out what am I supposed to say or do, or how do I do it?
Oh no.
And it ended up being absolutely amazing. Just amazing. So what a stage to be on. It was like, wow. So, and you know, Muhammad Ali is another one. I had just learned to do an impression of him. Just that, I mean, it was the first day I did my impression of Muhammad Ali in front of Muhammad Ali. And I remember being on that stage, and I had to bring him out, and I looked at him and I said, Mr. Ali, just give me a moment. I have a surprise for you. And I immediately, in my mind, said my prayer. I said, you know what, God, you really have to help me right now. I can't blow this. This right here is going to either make me or break me. So Lord, please, you know, and I'm walking to and I'm saying this prayer to myself all at the same time. I probably could have said it out loud. Nobody would have cared. They would have loved it. So when I got out there to the front of the stage, I looked around, and I mean, there were people everywhere. And Ali was watching me. He was standing there in all his just greatness, and just, I've never seen a man like that. You know, it's like he was a Thor or somebody. I don't know.
Yes.
But anyway, I went out there and I said, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I hit so hard, I turned a he into a she. And I'm telling you guys, when he came out, it's the same hand that Whitney Houston would eventually pick up. He held my hand up in the air, and he says, you doing me? A woman doing me? That's awesome. And I'm telling you, the audience ate it up. And I said, you know what? I'm in my element. And that was the day. That was the same day Garrett Morse came and asked me to go with him over to NBC to meet his boss, who's Lorne Michaels from Saturday Night Live. And he said, Mr. Michaels is going to love you, because I had done several impressions on the show. I didn't know, I wasn't doing Whoopi Goldberg or Wendy Williams. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure if they were, they hadn't become who they are.
Right.
But I was doing Lily Tomlin, Ruth Bussey, Joan Rivers. I did eventually start doing Diana Ross and Dionne Warwick. And he took me to NBC. I met Lorne Michaels. We all sat down in Mr. Michaels' office. I didn't even know how big this was. I had no clue. And that's why I said I believe God protected me from a lot of stuff, you know, so that I wouldn't overreact or overdo stuff or just be too much. You know, all of that. So I'm sitting down, and I'm there with Lorne Michaels, and he offers me a position as an associate writer for Saturday Night Live. And that's how that came about. I was like, okay, so I did one of the biggest stages in the world today. And then I get invited to NBC to meet Lorne Michaels with Saturday Night Live. And there you have it.
Wow. Do you have a favorite impression? Like a voice you like to do the most?
Oh, Whoopi Goldberg is always the first one.
That is spot on. Your Whoopi is spot on.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Well, for our listening audience right now, here we are. Hey, let me just say this. A lot of people think I was canceled, but I wasn't canceled. I was suspended, okay? Whoopi has for years been my favorite go-to impression.
Oh my goodness!
What was that? Go ahead.
No, I was going to tell June, one of the girls that was at the LOLGCA, the Living on Laughter Gospel Comedy Association. Angela had a show. Was it last week? Yeah, last Saturday, where she invited me to headline her show, and it was just so fun because a few of the people who were there were at the conference with us.
Yes, yeah.
And so now she got to see a full Sylvia Traymore Morrison show. She got to see the whole thing. And she was like, oh my God, Sylvia did so many impressions. She was like, I am doing a one-woman play. I've been handed the script to do a one-woman play entitled The Return of Jackie Moms Mabley. Jackie Moms Mabley pretty much introduced stand-up to the world. I mean, stand-up comedy. People did comedy, but she was one of the first to actually interact with the audience. And she was invited to the White House by 2 sitting presidents. Ed Sullivan loved her. All of the talk show hosts back then, they loved her. So I'm bringing her back, but I'm also bringing 8 iconic women who were trailblazers in the entertainment industry. So I'm doing impressions of Ella Fitzgerald, who's I don't know if you guys know what scat music is, but she was.
Oh my gosh, I used to scat with my kids. I used to. Don't ask Michele. I'm not doing it because I would only do it because I can't do it. And my son would be like, "You embarrass the whole family when you do that." Yes, I love scat. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, I had to interrupt.
No, that's okay. That's funny. I wish you would though, June. That would be fun to hear you scat.
Come on.
It's just for comedic relief in my house because my kids would be listening to rap music or something, and I'm like, what?
And for our listeners now,
yeah.
Come on. Well, speaking of rap music, I have coined the phrase that for Ella Fitzgerald, who was the scat queen.
Yes.
I coined the phrase, rapping is scatting and scatting is rapping. Here we go. Oh, there you go.
For our people not watching, that was me the whole time. That was June Colson scatting. You just got the very first record of June Colson and her scatting skills. I can't follow that.
Oh, June, that's funny.
Get that out of here, June.
I would literally. They would be listening to rap music, and I would be doing the bip ba ba doo da dee da ba da dee da ba ba da boo, and they're like, "Stop, Mom, stop! You're
June, that is good.
No, that's awesome. You can do really
I would wash dishes and dance around the house doing that. Just anything that like my boys are huge, Sylvia. In my act, I say they've gotten so big I can't break them up when they fight. So I figured if you can't beat them, you just tase them. Which my son Trey no longer stutters, Sylvia. So it works. It works. I'm just saying. But they're big. And so I don't have the power to wrestle them anymore.
Right.
They're faster than me, but I will always have the power of humiliation in my back pocket. And if I have to, I'll be at a high school basketball game. I will scat. If you want to get smart, if you're not behaving on the floor, I'll scat. I'll start scatting in the student section. That's what I will do.
Funny. Oh my goodness. That's hilarious.
I think Michele should have to scat now since I've done it and Sylvia's done it. Michele, do you scat?
Well, when I heard you guys first say scat music, I thought you were saying rap music, and I'm thinking, oh, like Mickey Mouse, like we're all going to Disney World now. That's where I thought you guys were going. And then I realized, oh no, we're talking like a jazzy kind of a thing.
Yes. Well, okay, so the one woman tour, where is that going to be?
You know what? We were scheduled to start in Washington because that's where I live, but the pandemic shut everything down, as we all know. Everything got shut down. And it's actually shut down. It shut down for almost a couple of years. So we're now in the process of setting up the theaters that the play is going to. And it's kind of like, it's an interesting form of comedy for me because I get to do her jokes in her voice. But I also get, singing was my first love.
Yeah.
I loved singing. So that's why when I heard your song, your opening song, I was like, oh, I love this because I love music. I love singing. But then, back when I was first coming out into the real world, I was thinking, should I keep, because people say, oh my God, you can sing. And I said, now, wait a minute. There's like 4 trillion singers and 1 Black female impressionist in this country. So I think I go with doing that. And so, that was so good, June. I'm sorry, that was so good.
Yeah, if you want to catch me singing, it's actually, I'm on a rap video. It's called Back to Church Sunday. And I'm the coffee queen doing things with the beans that you've never seen. So you can watch that. because they made me sound amazing. I'm just, with a good production team.
Give me a little bit of it. Let me hear a little bit of it, Michele. Please let me.
Oh, that was it. That was it.
There was more lines than that, but well, it's been a minute, so you might not remember.
That was good too. Did you write that, or did you? Someone wrote it?
I didn't write it. It was one of those moments in my life when I'm like, Lord, I just want to be stretched just a little, and he answered that. And so I got a call, said, hey, you want to be in this rap video? I'm like, sure. Like, you could say no. I'm like, no, it'll be fine. They asked me like 3 or 4 times if I wanted to back out. I'm like, no, I got this. I didn't have it. Not at all. But so the guys that wrote it, since I don't know music very well, he had to sing the music. So I was listening to how he sang it to learn the melody and everything, so I was listening, or the rap, whatever. Is it a melody? I don't know. So I was listening to him, and then when we had to go lay down the track, he just started playing the music, and I'm like, oh wait, no, can you play the one that you're singing? Because that's how I learned it. So I had to have him singing it in my ears so I could do it. And then the next step after, laying down my vocals, then we had to film it. So now I have to lip sync to my own voice.
Yes.
I'm like, can't we do it to you? He's like, no, we do your voice. I'm like, oh, okay. And then after that,
and what's the name of it? I need to know where to go look for it. Look, go and listen to it. So give it to me again.
It's Back to Church Sunday church rap.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got to send it definitely a messenger. And she's good, Michele. You're really good at it, and she's got a little Starbucks looking smock on. And do you dance? I think you dance.
Yes. I attempted a dance. I did a dab. I did a leg kick. It was really, really. I stretched myself for sure. I should have stretched out before that. That was a mistake. I didn't do that. So it was fun. It was a really neat thing because it's different people in your church. So you have the nursery worker. I come on after the nursery worker. So you have the guy the greeter, you've got the pastor, you got the nursery worker, you've got the coffee queen, and then you have the worship pastor, in his little skinny jeans and all this stuff. So it's such a great thing that this company called Back to Church Sunday, they have this website, and they just continually produce content for smaller churches that they can buy. And then they can get their church's info on there, and it's really a neat thing. So I was so honored to be part of it. Yeah. So that's, if you want to hear me sing, that's where you'll hear it.
That's the place. Yeah. That's the place to do it.
I have a huge question because I'm kind of okay. So Sylvia,
yes,
have you ever done any pranks as a celebrity? Like when we were younger, we used to, call up people and be like, hey, is your refrigerator running? Go catch it. Like something stupid like that. Or have you ever done any kind of pranking as a celebrity voice?
You know what? It's amazing. I have had stars call me up and say, I'm about to call this friend of mine, and they love Whoopi, or they love Diana Ross, or they love Dionne Warwick, and I want them to think that they're actually talking to them, and I've done that countless times.
Oh wow!
So
I would love to have been on a party line with like in my hometown we had the party line. Can you imagine Sylvia as a little girl picking up that party line and pretending to be like they're trying to call the neighbors? Sylvia's got the neighbor's voice down. Like you could have been on a party line in a small town all day long. My cousin and I would get in trouble. We would we'd be holding the voice and the little elderly lady. It made a click. She knew when we were on there, and we giggled, be listening to the conversation and the gossip in the neighborhood. Anybody under probably 40 years old will have to, that's listening, you just Google what a party line was. So there would be that.
Oh yeah, that was always fun too. Always.
And then one other question: have you ever, because you were doing Whoopi's voice? And then you just said that you weren't canceled, you were suspended or whatever, right? Yes. So just that little clip right there. The thing that I thought of right away was Barbara Walters. Have you ever done like celebrity interviews, like from Barbara Walters' perspective? Like, can you do her voice and you're interviewing Whoopi? Because I think that would be great content. it would be, I would watch those YouTubes. I would watch,
Wow.
that kind of thing. Like if you're doing, it would be so
I had
neat.
some people to come and bring their camera work in, and what they did was they set up a round table for me, and I had like 5 different celebrities, me as them at the round table. So that was I had Cher and Joan Rivers and Whoopi, and then they all talked to each other, and it was amazing. It was like he got sick. I think he passed from COVID, so we never got to finish the project. So yeah, I haven't thought about that in quite a while. So that might be something I might go back to. So thanks for saying that. That's
well, Sylvia, we've kept you almost an hour. I would keep you just forever if I could. And look, my dog's causing trouble at this point. But I definitely want to remind people where they can find you. Okay, so on Instagram, on Instagram, Sylvia T. Morrison. That's SylviaTMorrison. On Facebook, Sylvia Tray with an A. Morrison. And friends, keep an eye out, especially for this one woman show. I definitely, if it's anywhere near Kentucky, I know we talked over the summer, our friend Jennifer that was at the conference, she lives in Atlanta. So I said, when it hits Atlanta, I'm staying with Jen and we're going to go watch this show together.
So sweet.
Definitely I hope it comes to Tulsa. That's all I'm saying. I really, really hope it comes to Tulsa.
It needs to be Oklahoma as well, for sure. But you all follow Miss Sylvia Traymore Morrison. She is amazing.
Traymore. It's two more.
I'm sorry. I keep
That's
saying
okay. No, because
Sylvia Traymore Morrison.
Yeah.
You need more of Sylvia Traymore Morrison. You can't get enough. More and more and more. And Sylvia, I personally want to thank you. I told Michele that I was just overwhelmed and thrilled to death, and I knew that she was going to just see an amazing human being today, and we are both beyond honored that you took the time out of your day to come and hang out with us. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was an absolute delight. Really, it was a pleasure. And see, Michele, look at that smile of yours.
There it is.
Even with the window there, whatever it is you did, you still glow. So there you go.
It is.
Thank you, ladies. I appreciate it. I had a ball. Thank you,
Sylvia. Oh my goodness, Michele. What just happened? An amazing interview, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to put her backstage for a minute.
There we go.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh. June, you have the best guests ever. You seriously do. You're like, oh, let's call this person. Your connections are amazing. That's all I'm going to just say.
Oh, well, listen,
100%.
I'll tell you what, that was definitely God sent to be able to meet her and have her on here with us. You all, that's, I don't know. I'm just gonna go process how wonderful this was. How about you? So you all, that's going to be it. Oh yeah,
was amazing. There's so much history there. There's so much wealth of information, so much talent. Like, does the talent ever stop with Sylvia? I don't think so. I think it just continues. I mean, it's just it's an ocean of talent is what she is. So
yes, and definitely to watch her books again. Don't forget, just look it up. You can get them on Amazon for sure. And the Jelly Beans from Heaven. I'm just getting started on it, and I will probably when I get to sit down on vacation, I'm sure I will probably read it in a day because I'm not going to set it down once I get started. It's I've read a few pages in, and I got very angry when I had to leave and go do mom stuff. So I was like, I'm not going to pick it up again until I can actually read it all and finish it. Jelly Beans from Heaven, Almost There, Almost. That's
are either of those on audiobooks?
I don't think curious, so, but
if they are, if she was doing the voice, that would be so fantastic.
Oh, I know. It may not be yet, but definitely check it out. Who knows if it's on there? But I like the hard copy. I like feeling the pay. Also, if I see her again, I'll have this in my bag and get her signature on it. It's hard to get somebody to sign an audio copy. It's just uncomfortable. It's awkward when they sign your iPad or your iPhone. You know what I mean? Or iPad. It's just weird. It's just weird to ask that. Well, Michele, that's it for this episode. As always, Jesus and Junebug loves you. And Michele, sign us off, my friend.
I just want to say you are seen. You are valuable. We appreciate you listening. God bless.